Morning to everybody. How's everybody doing? 2nd of January, second live feed that we are doing right now. A question that has been regularly asked in through my live feeds, and I don't think that I have it's too far of information that we have, too much of information that we have for people to understand how big this is and how huge this topic is. A lot of people continuously ask me this question, and I go further into an answer that is a closed door. For people that they have asked, why does not Mexico stop the caravans? Here's my answer. They have tried. They have tried multiple times. Under the Trump administration, they stopped multiple caravans and they decreased them. I don't know if you have not seen my videos, but I suggest that you go on my playlist in YouTube and you guys can see actually why they haven't, they tried back in the Trump administration. They really tried. But you're talking about that this is in some ways a weaponized migration. It is political migration. Sometimes it is just political. Sometimes it is migration with necessity. Sometimes a different type of migration. But under the Trump administration, they decreased it. They tried. And even in my videos, you can actually see that when I traveled with multiple caravans, multiple confrontations with the National Guard and with the migration, with the massive caravans, where, officials were actually hurt by the confrontations between officers of Mexico and officers and migrants themselves. Confrontations with rocks, confrontations that they were looting, immigration offices, and they have closed ports of entry of importing and exporting. They have tried. Mexico has tried to do their job into, this immigration. But, when it was under the Trump administration, now that is the Biden administration, it is trying to be more humanitarian in some way, and it's completely gone the opposite. And AMLO, that is Obrador, the president of Mexico, it is under the same agenda. It is the global compact of immigration. Both of them, they're collaborators of this global compact of immigration. That's why you don't see nobody stopping the mass migration in the United States and nobody stopping it in Mexico. Because both of these presidents are globalists. They like the globalist agenda. They are under the United Nations law that is open borders. United Nations does not believe in borders. So ultimately, you will have a different agenda. But before the Trump administration, even the Guatemala government was the one that put an example to the world on how to stop, how to stop a mass migration. They stopped 9,000 people caravan. They stopped, a humongous, Guatemala has stopped out of their obligation, because that is not their obligation. Somebody's commentating, Mexico wants American dollars. No, they don't. It is your administration, the Biden administration, who has incentivized this to continue. It is not Mexico's fault. It is these globalists, these leaders, that they are basically having the idea and the ideology that open borders is the solution for immigration and for the solution of giving humanitarian help to the much needy. And that is not the solution. Hundreds of people have died. Hundreds and hundreds of people have died. And that is an actual fact. And it is a reality. Under the Trump administration, it was controlled. It was massively, when Trump came in, I don't agree with some of the policies that Trump put. I really don't. I'm just going to be honest. I have a lot of right-wing, audience right here, but I don't agree with a lot of the policies that Donald Trump put. I really don't. one of the things that I agreed of him doing was pulling out of the Global Compact on Migration and ultimately implementing a tariff to Mexico. Now, it doesn't mean that that is America being imperialistic. No, it means that what Donald Trump wanted to do was to implement law and order, and the only way for Mexico to listen, and the only way for these businessmen that they own the spider web in our country of Mexico, and they have not done anything for our own security to combat the organized crime, was to hit them in the pockets. So immediately when they started being hit in the pockets themselves, immediately when they started being hit in the pockets, the problem was getting resolved. Immediately, hundreds of officers, they were deployed to the south border of Tapachula. Also, somebody saying Mexico wants to extort money from America. That's why. No. You have the wrong answer right there, brother. If they wanted to do that, why Joe Biden has the ideals and the global ideals of open borders? The United States of America right now under the Biden administration, it is the one that is incentivizing this to continue. Nobody else. They're the ones that they want this global agenda. They're the ones that they cannot even stop it themselves because they're the ones that they're for open borders right now. As I was explaining, the current administration of the United States of America, it is clear. The Biden administration, it is a collaborator of the Global Compact on Migration, of international treaties that they don't even go to the Senate. This was an international treaty that goes directly to the president, and he signed it off. As also the Mexican president that signed it off. Both of the presidents that we have, Mexico has a globalist agenda, and ultimately, not only that, the United States has a globalist agenda. The problem right here is when you give the power to the United Nations over your borders, this will happen. And that will create a collateral effect and a collateral damage to all the countries. When the past administration of the Trump administration was in office, one of the things, as I was saying, I don't agree with all of the policies that Donald Trump implemented. I really don't. But one of the things that I agreed upon was him pulling out of the Global Compact on Migration and standing in front of all these globalists in the United Nations and telling them, there's a port of entry. I'm not denying that we do not need immigrants in our country. Our country was made out of immigrants. That's Donald Trump's statement. But there's a port of entry where you can enter and ask for asylum and refugee. This is the process that we need to do. We do not agree with this Global Compact on Migration because it's admitting people through non-ports of entry, and it's going to create more business for the organized crime, for the cartel. It incentivizes the organized crime and the cartel to make millions, as they are making right now, as Biden came back to the Global Compact on Migration. And ultimately, also, he said that a lot of people were going to be hurt. And that is what is actually happening right now. Migrants are being hurt. Not only migrants, Mexican nationals in the borders with Mexico and the United States. Look what is happening in Sonoita, the border with Lukeville, Arizona. A lot of the Mexican nationals, they're afraid because of the war that is going on in the cartel and the other side of the border that it is not happening on your side of town. It is happening in Mexico. Imagine the nationals of Mexico going through this fear every day that there's a shootout and there's a cartel war incentivized by open borders and by the humongous trafficking of people into the United States because the open border policies that these globalists agreed upon. So imagine the nationals, the Mexican nationals, that they live on the other side of the spectrum and they have to live and go through this horrible nightmare every day through shootouts, through people just, having shootouts in the middle of nowhere, people having shootouts in the middle of downtown. They have found multiple mass graves also of migrants in the desert, multiple mass graves of bodies in the desert. Why? Because I have said this before. There is a war on the other side of the border wall. And this is a war that is going on because they're fighting for those open border gaps. This has created a multi-billion business. This is why it is so important to know that whenever you have a leader that is for open borders or ultimately for the globalist agenda, you will have these things that the authorities get affected. the authorities get affected. So imagine if you're telling me, well, Border Patrol, it's only 2 people, and it's just, you have 200 or 300 individuals sitting down. Why in Mexico they cannot do that? Because in Mexico it's different. In Mexico, they will actually, go at it with the authorities. They will confront the authorities. And ultimately, not only that they will confront the authorities, but also they will go one-on-one with the authorities. I have documented that, where the massive caravans, the massive caravans that they have coming in, ultimately it is, they cannot stop. And you're talking about 2,000 to 3,000 people. 2,000 to 3,000 people against 200 officers. 200 officers, or even less, 100 officers of the National Guard of Mexico. What are they going to do? And even though you have an international agreement that you cannot touch them, another thing that in the United States they do not know is that in Mexico, male officials, male authorities, they cannot touch a woman. An Institute National Immigration official that is a male, he cannot detain a woman and a child. So you have to deploy women to the floor to ultimately try to stop women migrants, or try to tell women migrants how to migrate, and that is the incorrect pathway. A male cannot stop a women migrant. They cannot touch a woman. That's how different our laws are in our country of Mexico. Our country is getting, they try to do the best that they could when they had these massive caravans. I don't know if you guys have seen my videos, but there were multiple confrontations that I recorded. I have traveled with 11 caravans, and all the 11 caravans, there has always been confrontations. Always, there have been confrontations. This last couple that I traveled, there were none confrontations. There were also just, people walking, waiting for the paperwork to get admitted and to get vetted so they can walk freely. As our Article 11 of our Constitution says, the Article 11 of the Constitution of Mexico, somebody saying there are hardly any women. No, that is a lie. And this caravan that I just walked, according to the Civil Protection of Mexico, and what we saw, there were more than 2,500 minors. And also, they were recorded more than 1,700 women. So there's women and there's children. The majority are men. Yes, they are. But there's women and there's children. So let's not create a fake narrative. This is the reality. Mexico has tried, and Guatemala has tried, and this responsibility of this current administration to create this idea that, you are under United Nations law. That is why it's not against, immigration. I'm a pro-migrant myself. I believe that migration is a human right, but there's a process to do so, and there's a way to do so, and there's a law to do so. But when you're under the United Nations international treaty, there's no law, and you go up and beyond every constitutional law, because you have the Commission of Refugees in your country, because you have ACNUR in your country that is going to tell you how to run every border, and how to tell you that the processes for people to enter under refugee and asylum and under and under whatever economical disaster, environmental disaster, migrant, economical migrant, whatever migrant that is entering, they're going to tell you the process to do so and how to do so. And ultimately, we are forgetting Mexico. It is the only country, not even the United States has this, but Mexico, it is the only country that is demanding migrants to wait for a process of a paperwork. That is why caravans conform and they build up, because there is a process. And a lot of the migrants, they do not want to wait. They do not want to wait 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Why? Because they say, the migrants, they tell you, this did not happen in Colombia. They did not ask us for a paperwork. They provided us transportation. This did not happen in Panama. This did not happen in Costa Rica. This did not happen in Nicaragua. This does not happen in El Salvador. This did not happen in Honduras. This did not happen in Guatemala. But why is it happening in Mexico? Because Mexico has a law. And that immigration law is that for you to transit to our country, you have to wait for a paperwork that is called multiple migration form. The only country in the continent of America that is demanding migrants for them to have a permit to transit. They will have the ability to transit, but they have to wait for a process. But most of the migrants, they do not like to wait. They are in a critical economical situation where they're living on the streets. So because of that, they start conforming these caravans. And now it looks like a weaponized migration. Now it looks like they're doing it with a purpose. And in these caravans, you have a lot of infiltrated situations. You have a lot of infiltrated individuals. You have good people, really good people, people that they want to go and migrate for the right purpose, and people that they're infiltrated to do harm, people that they're infiltrated to just, basically to cross irregularly through the United States without checking through a checkpoint. So you will have these kind of situations. But ultimately, Mexico, it is the only one that is allowing this. Now, you have the factor of corruption. And so somebody's saying, then why are they getting through Mexico? I just explained to you. Are you listening? Please put attention. Because they go through a process. It's not Mexico's obligation to stop them. It's not. They have a legal process. We have our constitution and we have our laws. Do you know why caravans are being formed? Do you know the reason why? Caravans are being formed because there is a process to walk under our country. Not even the United States has this process. The United States is just admitting them and releasing them. Mexico is the only country in the whole continent that has a process, because as soon as you enter the border, for you to transit and without being stopped by an immigration official or by any official, you need to have a piece of paperwork that is called multiple migration form or a refugee visa. If you have those two, you can transit freely. For a certain amount of days, a multiple migration form can be done and can be given to you between 20 to 30 days. The humanitarian visa, it will give to you for 1 year for you to live under the refugee conditions in the country of Mexico. So you have to wait for that. So a lot of the times when caravans are being formed, it's because people do not want to wait. So you start little by little conforming a group bigger and bigger and bigger, because migrants are sleeping on the street. Migrants are tired of waiting. Migrants, they do not want to wait 1 month. They do not want to wait 2 months. I just explained that in Central and South America, they do not have this process. They immediately give the paperwork for them to move on and move on and move on. So when migrants get to Mexico, they say, Mexico is the nightmare. Mexico is the wall. And it's not only that Mexico, they say Mexico is a nightmare. Mexico is the wall. I tell them, Mexico has their own law. As you have your own law, Mexico has our own law. And ultimately, not only that, but there's the factor of corruption. There's the factor of cartel. There is the factor of, because of this administration of the United States, opening up the floodgates and letting people in through non-ports of entry, now you have a bigger problem. And what is the bigger problem? The bigger problem is that when you're admitting by the hundreds of thousands, the currency that the cartel is getting paid, it is in dollars. So the cartel is getting way richer, way bigger, way powerful, because they are getting paid on American currency. Every person that is getting smuggled into the United States through non-ports of entry, it is paying exacerbated amounts of money to the United States, exacerbated to coyotes. And this is creating an industry of the cartel. Somebody's asking a question. So you don't bet the people coming into your country? Didn't I just told you Are you hearing what I'm saying? They go to a process of a paperwork that is called multiple migration form. Multiple migration form for them to walk under the country, under our territory. Multiple migration form, humanitarian visa. That is what it's called. That's why caravans are formed. That's why caravans are built. That's why. Somebody's saying, dude, some of us just got here. I understand, but I'm explaining again. I'm explaining again, and I'm being patient. So if you just got here, you can just, at the end of the video, you can just, watch it again. This is the actual situation, this is somebody's asking a question. I will answer these questions because there's a lot of doubts. How does Mexico law help the migrants, Mexico citizens, not to come into America without paper entry? I don't understand your question, Elizabeth. It is written kind of incorrect, but if you can write it again, I can understand it. At the end of the day, there is a thing that is called Global Compact of Migration. And when you have these globalists, these elitists, these leaders, these people that they don't believe in borders. This is what these individuals, they do not believe in borders. They do not believe in sovereignty. They do not believe in that. It's clear. It is obvious. The only ones that they're going to tell you the opposite is the progressive, mercenary, white liberal. It is, it's the only one that is going to tell you the opposite. But these globalists, they do not believe on borders. So that's why they created a thing that is called Global Compact of Immigration. A thing that the liberal, progressive, white liberal says, you're continuously talking about that. Can you talk about something else? No, that's what you want. That is the main problem of this. What is Mexico doing to prevent their own citizens from entering the USA illegally? What is Mexico doing? Our own Mexicans from entering the United States illegally. Well, our Mexican citizens, they have the right to transit through whatever territory in our land. And if the entries of irregular entries into the United States are exacerbated, it is because you have a lack of protection on both sides of the border, a lack of protection on the United States side. That is, eventually, it's obvious now. You have, more than 300,000 that they just entered last month, I believe so. So it is a lack of protection on your side, and also the incentivization of having an open border gap where they can enter easily and they can easily, cross to the United States to be admitted and be vetted. When you have those kind of loopholes, you will have, those kind of situations where people, they do not want to wait for a process, and they do not understand that there's a process to obtain, let's say, the CBP app. A lot of people do not agree with it. A lot of people agree with it. But it's a highway for people to just obtain, the opportunity to go into the United States. And a lot of people, they do not want to even wait anymore for the CBP app. So, that is the current situation, which I'm explaining, that when you have a process and people do not wait, you will have different types of problems in Mexico, in the south border with Guatemala. Hey, cállese ya. Negro. Sorry, my dog. Venga para acá. Venga para acá. Cállese. Ya cállese. Ya. Hey. Ya cállese. When you have those kind of problems, sorry, my dog is a really, it's a dog that gets aggravated when he sees strangers walking by, and I love that about him. I love that he's aggressive in that way. I don't want to take that away from him, that he's aggressive in that way, and I love that. But sometimes he doesn't stop. So to go back to to the situation. It's like when we saw, when we saw the Guatemala military stopping a 9,000 caravan, and people were actually asking why Guatemala doesn't do anything. And it was clearly showing to the world what they were doing. And Americans, they were like, they're not doing anything. Why? First of all, it's a global agreement. But even the Guatemala government, they were trying to do something back when the Trump administration was on. Now it's just hundreds of thousands of people just walking through non-ports of entry, entering. And whoever advocates for this behavior, it is part of the problem. Whoever advocates with the romanticizing the migration and not seeing the real problem, you are advocating for the cartel to have a humongous more powers. For people that they are, people that they're jumping the wall. Migrants that they get to a particular point and they jump the wall, they don't get instructed just on their own. They are told where they can jump and where they can go. And that is a cost. You have to pay somebody to do that, and you have to pay somebody to guide you to do that. And whoever is advocating for this behavior to continue, you are giving the cartel the power to continue to do so. You're saying to the cartel, it's okay to smuggle people, it's okay to take advantage of the most vulnerable, and it's okay to have more power. And you're creating a bigger problem to our country. It's not caring about the Mexican citizens and the Mexican nationals. You're only caring about your narrative of romanticizing the migration and being more humanitarian, quote unquote, but you're not caring about what the real problem it is causing over here. That's why I continually say that the white progressive mercenary activist liberal that comes over here, they bring their political trash, their hatred over here, and they use us for their political votes and their political narrative. That's what they do. They come over here and they say, oh, this candidate from the United States is talking bad about you Mexicans. They're doing this, they're doing that. We have enough problems over here. We have a lot of problems with insecurity. We have a lot of problems with our economy. We have a lot of problems with our education. We have a lot of problems in our streets. We have a lot of problems with our teachers. We have a lot of problems with our security towards women. We have a lot of problems over here. Why are you bringing your political trash over here and use us for your political votes to create a narrative and to create chaos and to create division and to create hate? That's what the white progressive liberal does. That's what they do, and they use their language barrier of defense as a tactic for people to pander and for people to go under their group. What is fearmonger, creating hysteria, conspiracy theories, white supremacy, white imperialists, xenophobic, transphobic, homophobic, pronoun-phobic, fact-phobic, fascist, racist, narcissist, bigot, Zionist. They use all that language on us. So if you're not part of the group of the white progressive mercenary activist liberal group, you will be that. And you will be attacked. And you will be called this and you will be called that. So they practically use us for their political trash. This is why I was so critical on saying these NGOs, they need to be audited. Every single one, to see what the purpose of these progressive, white, progressive, mercenary liberals are doing in our country of Mexico. What is these mercenary activists, what are they doing in our country of Mexico? What is the purpose of them? Because the purpose is really, some of them, they want to help us. Some of them, it's just progressively, we know what they want to do. They just want to bring anarchy to our country. And we have had enough. And this kind of infiltrated individuals, they are involved in caravans. They are involved in the massive movements of caravans. You can actually see them. They're there and they're like, oh, he's a right-winger. Go and attack him. He doesn't like migrants. And the migrants are listening to a white progressive liberal. Imagine that. They're listening to that and he's weaponizing them against everybody. Because they're bringing their white political trash, their open border trash, their United Nations trash. Whoever thinks that George Soros is a philanthropist, he's out of their freaking mind. Look what this philanthropist has done in the Darian Gap. People are dying. People are dying. People are being trafficked. Just yesterday, received a message from a migrant. Said, sir, you have been in the Darian Gap multiple times. Can I ask you for a favor? Can you locate this person, please? This is my brother. He's suffering from diabetes, and he went inside the Darian, and they're telling me that he's already dead. And I said to this migrant, I said, I'm so sorry for your loss. I cannot do anything. It is not up to my authority to do so. I can try to find out if your brother is there. But the only thing that I can tell you is that multiple times I have said on multiple broadcasts, Darian, it is not a route. It is a jungle. You cannot go through those routes. That's why we go there, to show you, to expose what these open border globalists have done. That they are regularizing pathways which they are inhuman. Why a migration needs to be done purposely through a jungle? Why you have to go through 4 to 7 to 10 days of torture inside of a jungle to get to a better place to migrate? Why you have to wait on a migrant camp with feces and actually a lot of infections with you and your child, then to hop on a canoe and then to travel 3 hours to get to another place, another migrant camp in a jungle, for them to wait another day, 2 days, 3 days to get on a bus to get to Costa Rica, and from there be smuggled to this place and pay extortions and be in harm's way, to be evidently, exposed to give all your money to corrupt authorities, and possibly you're going to get kidnapped, possibly not, smuggled across on the back of a tractor trailer, cross to irregular pathways, risk your life, walk in a caravan for kilometers under humidity and under heat, arrive to another border, and then, where are all these NGOs, all these globalists, all these United Nations individuals? This is why I'm telling you, if you're asking me why does not Mexico do anything, this is done on purpose. These NGOs, these globalists, this global compact on migration was designed to the idea that there is no border. And the countries that they have a border and that they want to implement law and order, they will be signalized and they will be labeled by the white progressive, mercenary, white, liberal, by the globalists. They will be labeled as fearmongers, creating hysteria, conspiracy theories, white supremacists, white imperialists, xenophobic, transphobic, homophobic, pronoun-phobic, migrant-phobic, racist, nationalist, fascist, bigot, Zionist. All of the terms that you will see regular on your daily basis on your social media platforms. The only two countries that they were having the process to regularize individuals through ports of entry was Mexico and the United States. Now you have leaders that they believe on globalist agendas. And I will tell you something. The next incoming elections, you have one political candidate of Mexico that is a woman. She's a progressive liberal. And you have, on the other hand, a conservative, a woman. For the first time in Mexico history, a woman is going to be president. And on the other side, you have another woman that she doesn't have the capabilities to run a country. So there's a lot of possibilities that the progressive liberal woman is going to win. But on the other hand, in the United States, you have a complete war right now on the elections. A complete war with the Republicans and the Democrats. A complete war of if Joe Biden is going to run or not, because he's clinically unhealthy. And on the other side, you have Donald Trump that is being blocked at every state right now and accused of this and accused of that. But in the middle, you have Kennedy, that he sounds like a reliable center guy. There's a war of who's going to be the president of the United States. And on the other hand, on Mexico, you have this. So it comes down to who is going to be part of the global agenda and who is not. Let's see the next elections, because if we're talking about why is Mexico not stopping, it comes down to a purpose, and the purpose is because we are part, you, United States of America, we, Mexico, and other countries, we are part of the global international compact on migration. That is basically giving the power to the United Nations over our borders. That is basically that. If you have an official that is seeing somebody entering in Mexico through a non-port of entry, and you will have ACNUR there, or the UNCHR or OIM, and the official says, stop, you cannot enter, but ACNUR gets in there and says like, hey, hold on, they have a right. So now the law of Mexico seems to be enabled. And they have given that power to the United Nations to enable the laws of Mexico. Everybody deserves a chance for a better life. Everybody deserves a chance to have a better opportunity in life. Everybody has a right to migrate. I believe that migration is a human right. I'm a Mexican, so I believe I'm a migrant myself. I believe in that. But there is a process. If we're not creating the process, and if we're not following what the process is, then we are enabling the cartel to have power, corruption, money underneath the table to pay to politicians. And you will have these problems. More people are being hurt. More people are being trafficked. More people are being abused. Let me ask you a question. In the last meeting, sorry about my sniffing. In the last meeting between Anthony Blinken, Alejandro Mayorkas, and the President of Mexico, a question I want to ask you before I leave. Was this topic discussed? Cartel. Did they, all three of them, sit down, and the number one thing that they should discuss is how they were going to combat the organized crime, or they talked about the United Nations. Why they did not even bring that topic to the table when it's the number one contaminated, rotten organization that is taking away so many lives. Let me go and clean my, I'll be right back. It's a question that we need to ask ourselves. Why? It's a really serious question. Why? Why it was not discussed? Why the number one problem that has taken away so many lives, that has controlled so many borders? You guys haven't seen what is going on down in south of Mexico, in Chiapas. A lot of indigenous are being displaced because of these open border policies. Because the cartel, it is fighting for non-ports of entry. The cartel is fighting over in Mexico to obtain power. The organizations, the criminal organizations, they're fighting through non-ports of entry. In the south of Mexico, they're fighting over it. And a lot of indigenous are being displaced out of their lands. What is happening in Guerrero and Michoacan? Because we have a lot of contamination, and a lot of contamination, not the appropriate word, because we have a lot of rotten organizations that they are massively trafficking fentanyl into the United States. That has grown so much. So the number one, that is the United States, that is the demand, the number one buyer of fentanyl, it is the United States. And because of not having a border security, because of not combating the number one problem in Mexico and also in the United States, Mexicans are being affected. Mexicans are being persecuted in Michoacan and Guerrero. A lot of families are running away from their land because the cartel that is going after them, and they're recruiting their children, they're recruiting their sons and daughters. They're actually using drones with explosives and landing them on their houses if they don't comply, and they don't let their land to be owned by the cartel and the organized crime. It is a reality. It is not a lie. We have seen multiple stories of migrants that they have told us that story. When you have a disaster of a border, a disorganized border, an uncontrollable border, a border that it can easily be categorized as weak, and also you have the United Nations having power over it in terms to immigration, on top of that, you have the icing of the cake, you will have this kind of problems. And the only ones that are growing is the organized crime, the cartel. They're the ones that are getting millions and millions and billions. What do you think they're doing with their money? They're buying artillery. They're preparing because they know that if somebody else comes into office and it doesn't come to an agreement with them and it wants to dismantle them or enable them, they're going to have to go to war. And that's what's actually happening right now in terms to territory-wise on the other side of the border. I don't wish this on the United States of America, man. I beg that, I pray that you don't go through what we're going through. But in the other side of the border, there's a war. A lot of people are not talking about it. Just the other day in Sonoita, 6 gunmen were shot down by the military because they were shooting at each other. They were going at each other. These kind of places are, unreachable anymore. You can not transit peacefully through these places and go out and, have a nice taco at night, or enjoy a walk in the middle of the night with your family, because it's untrenchable. Really it is. It's bad. It's really bad. So I just want to clearly, give you guys a message. When you ask this question about why Mexico is not doing anything, you need to look at the whole perimeter of a problem. You need to look at the whole spectrum. It's not just only Mexico. The United States is part of this. Completely and obviously it is. But I have explained this before throughout the years. When the past administration was in office, the Trump administration, they were getting hit by the top part because Trudeau is part of the global compact and Mexico is part of the global compact. But there was an agenda. Now that 3 of these countries are aligned, every single country is doing it out of their own purpose and out of their own pocket money. Canada is not just, Trudeau is saying, yes, I'm part of the collaborator of the global compact, but, I'm just over here kind of lifting my hand to help, but not to help. They have also a lot of problems. Then you have the United States that has a lot of problems right now. New York is overrun. All these, sanctuary cities are overrun. Then you have Mexico that is the corruption and the cartel. Then you have the extortion that is going on in Guatemala. Then you have the corruption that is going on in Nicaragua and Honduras. Then you have the massive problem that is going on with trafficking in Costa Rica. Then you have the problem that is in the Darian, that is Panama, that the only ones that are trying to do something is the Panamanian authorities. Then you have the problem with trafficking where it initiates, where the cost is, it's in Colombia. Then you have a problem of extracontinental migrants that they're coming from Ecuador. Look at what geographically, there are just a few countries, what I just told you. Geographically, what I just told you. If one of these top 3 countries that is not aligned with the global agenda, it will enable the cartel and the organized crime, and you will save so many lives. And also create a humanitarian pathway for people to get a better opportunity in life. If it is in their country or it is in another country, but educate the migrant on how to do a process correctly. Now it is just a business. You got the NGOs that they get mad. The NGOs, they get mad when you're broadcasting. They're like, no, what are you doing here? This is American liberal telling a Mexican citizen, what are you doing over here? You have to be freaking kidding me. And they call you imperialist. And they call you a fascist. And these mercenary liberals, they come over here to our country, bring their hate, bring their political trash. And they're telling a Mexican citizen, what are you doing over here? What are you broadcasting? Why? What the hell is wrong with you? It's unbelievable. So we need to understand why this problem originates, why this problem exacerbates, and why this problem is existent still. There has been multiple confrontations between the National Guard and migrants where a lot of migrants have been hurt. Yes, it is a reality. But also, we have to say that there has been multiple confrontations where a lot of National Guards, they have been hurt, and badly. And I'm not saying just a little bit. I'm saying bad. They have been hurt bad. God bless you all. I will be right here for 5 more minutes. If you guys want to ask a question, I'm right here checking for notifications of recent things that are happening. Make them go to their country. Make them. I'm not an authority. I am a journalist. To make them, that will be on your side. That will be your Senate with your policies, or your Congress, is what you want, or or your president, or your Border Patrol, or your United States Customs. That's who you need to be screaming at if you don't agree with this. So I'm a journalist. I'm not an authority. God bless you, Oscar. Thanks for speaking the truth. Thank you so much, Melissa Kipper. We're going to be traveling soon in the next incoming days for people to just be joining in to understand what we are going to be doing in the next incoming day. So questions, people, before I go. Somebody asked a question. Here I am. Got 5 more minutes. People want to ask, or if I was not clear enough on some topic, God bless you, Oscar. Thank you. God bless you too. So thank you so much for joining in. I'm Oscar Blue for Real America's Voice News. Hope that I explained what I believe that is a real problem. I have been screaming for years now to everybody that we have the problem is to give the power of immigration to the UN. That's when we have a problem. And then when you give that to them, you have all these NGOs that they are taking advantage of the most vulnerable. And then they come to our life and they're like, no, you're milking this. No. You're the one that is milking this. You're the one that is making the hundreds of thousands. You're the one that is taking advantage of the most vulnerable and making a profit out of it. And in the meantime, just, creating the smoke screen that you are helping them and you're crossing them to a better life. Yeah, but you're making a profit. You're not doing it for free, right? You're asking for federal grants and you're living out of the American taxpayer. It's just obvious. God bless you all. Thank you so much for joining in. I will be coming in later on to just have another topic so we can talk about, and also to explain a little bit of what's going on. A lot of people want to ask this, and clearly the answer is, if all these people, all these leaders, they are for the United Nations, then this will continue and it will not end, never end, until you don't have a border, until immigration laws do not exist, and until you will never have a border. So that is going to basically be it. God bless you all. Stay safe. And like we always say, God's plan is our mission.